Welcome to hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to ITS 140. So just a few reminders. I think there's no homework due tonight, I believe. And also make sure you're working on the project, that you form your group. So I'll ask at this time, is there anyone that still doesn't have a group? Is there anyone that still hasn't picked a topic for their project?
Yeah, I haven't yet.
You haven't? Okay. You don't have a group and you don't have a topic?
Yeah.
Just sitting here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, okay, so there's, who spoke? What's your name?
Bade?
Dave? If you look in the chat, there's two people that are also looking for a group. So you guys, the three of you can form a group if you'd like. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
All right, great. All right, is there anyone else? Anyone else? No? Okay. All right, so if there's no one else, then today we're gonna continue with files. So if you remember, we started looking at the very interesting topic of files. And yeah, so we've gone over arrays, we've gone over, okay, and so what I will say is once we finish today's lab, you know, I can kind of say that you are basically, you know, done with the basics of programming. Okay, that's how I would put it. So you're done with the basics of programming. Give me a second. You're done with the basics of programming, and now you know, feel good about that, right? Because you have, you know, these are the main topics. You know, everything we've covered from the beginning until files is really like the main topics of programming. So my suggestion would be that these are the things you really want to master, okay? You really want to master these topics, so make sure you understand them, make sure you go back, you know, and do more problems if you still feel that you haven't, you know, mastered the subject. Definitely practice is the key, okay? And then everything else that remains for the rest of the semester is going to be, you know, additional topics that are really important, like object-oriented programming, but you don't always have to program in that style, for instance. Although it's highly recommended, you know, you don't have to. You can get by, you know, especially if you're doing things at the low level, etc. You can get by with without object-oriented, you know, things like recursion, you know, and then little things like dealing, you know, sorting arrays, GUIs, etc. You know, all these topics are just additional. They're like icing on the cake, right? But really the foundation of everything that you've done, you know, what you've done so far in the semester, that's really the foundation, and that's really the things that are going to be common across multiple languages and that you really need to master, okay? So, you know, you can feel good about that you've made it this far, and just keep practicing. All right, so as I said, next week we'll start, kind of the special topics now with, sorting arrays, text files, GUI, object-oriented programming, and recursion. But you really want to make sure, as I said, that you really understand these fundamental topics we've covered so far. All right, so let's go ahead now and just let's do problems from the book, okay? And then today I will assign a homework, and that you can work on that. So basically, if you look, this is chapter 10 in your book, and the PDF should be on Brightspace. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so let's see. So arrays, okay, files, and yeah, so I have the PDF in here. So I'm going to share my screen for this. All right. So that's the PDF. Now let's just find a problem that we can work through. Let's see. So here we go. So the first programming exercise should be, these are the programming exercises right here. And then, yeah, that one. So let's see, file display. Let's think about that one. Assume that a file containing, so you can see it here. Oh, can you guys see am I sharing that? Yeah.
Yeah, we can see.
All right, so programming exercises, file display. Assume that a file containing a series of integers is named numbers.dat. The extension doesn't matter. I'll usually change those to .txt just because I like, I just feel more comfortable with that. But as I said, you'll see me sometimes do things that are just my own personal preference, my own comfort zones. You guys don't have to do that, but the name doesn't matter. So assume that a file containing a series of integers is named numbers.dat and exists on the computer's disk. Design a program that displays all of the numbers in the file. Okay, that's very straightforward. So we're going to do the pseudocode, right? Because we have to practice that. And we're going to do the flowchart for it. And then we're going to go and go ahead and do the Python code. One thing about the homework I want to stress, I've noticed this, I keep saying this, when you submit homework assignments, submit a report, with everything in it. You can submit zip files if you'd like with your Jupyters, that's fine. I mean, but but really, please make sure that everything is in a report, either the PDF or Word. Another thing I've noticed is that some of you, like, less than half of you, sometimes I feel you're not taking the flowcharts seriously. You have to do them, and I'm gonna continue to assign flowcharts, and if you don't make an effort to improve, I'm keeping track of how you're doing, you're gonna continue to bleed off points, right? You're just losing points unnecessarily. Okay, so one suggestion I said, if you don't like using, like you find using a program too difficult, do it by hand and take a picture. Some students are doing that, and I've noticed that they write much better flowcharts. Okay, they do really nice. So I feel like you know how to do it. It's just that it's little things like you don't put arrows on things, and so just do it by hand. Take a picture if you find that easier. Put it in the report. It doesn't. This class is not about teaching you some software, right? It's about programming logic. So as long as the logic is there, I don't, you know, it doesn't matter. All right, so I wanted to say that. And then the other, the thing that I find really nice, I guess, is that the thing that everyone does best is the code. So that's like the funny thing. It just tells me that you're doing really good on the code, the majority of you. And it's really those things that I just feel you just find them, as I said, you know, you just don't like the program or something like that. All right, so anyway, let's go ahead and do this problem. So I'm going to have to switch so everyone understands the problem now. I'm going to switch back to the Word document, to the whiteboard. So you should be seeing the whiteboard now. And we're going to start with this is problem 10.1. So obviously I'm not going to assign this one in the homework, but I'll assign 4 again, as I usually do. So, you know, we don't have modules here, just one, right? So the main module, if you will. I'll do module, main. And then, so we have to, you know, get the file, right? That's the first thing. So we know there's a file somewhere in the disk, and it's called numbers dot dat. Okay, so we have a file in there somewhere, and it's got some numbers in it. Probably they are a series of integers. So the integers could be like that. It doesn't say what, you know, what numbers are in there. Or they could be like that, right? So, you know, we actually saw on Tuesday how we can handle both of these. So it shouldn't be a problem. All right, so I'm going to declare. We need to say the mode. So this is going to be an input file. Input file, and I'm going to call it numbers file. Remember, this is the variable in memory in the computer that is going to be the file handler. Okay, so it's going to be the file handler. All right. Then we're going to declare, you know, we need to that displays all the numbers basically. All right, so we're going to keep track somehow. So I'm going to say declare integer count equal 0. And then, you know, let's just leave it there for now. Okay, then after that, I need to open the file. So remember that, you know, pretty straightforward. And Python actually uses the same words, right? So it's going to be open. What do we open? We open the event handler numbers file. Or the file handler, and we map it to the name. So the name should be actually numbers. So numbers dot dat. Remember that it has to be in double quotes because it's a string literal. Otherwise, the program would think it's a variable, and if it's got a dot in there, it's going to think it's an object calling a method or an attribute, and that's not correct. Now let's say I'm going to go ahead and read and display. Notice this is a comment. Read and display all numbers in the file. In the file. Okay, so I'm going to do, you know, here I'm going to use a while. And I'm going to say, so this is a common approach. It's actually not what we do in Python per se, but it's an approach that's more standard and generic to all programming languages. So we would say something like, while not EOF, which means EOF stands for end of file. Okay, so EOF stands for end of file. It's just a way that the event handler, basically, when we use this command open and we create that object, it has a property that allows it to know when you're in the end of a file. Okay, so while not end of file of numbers file, remember this one, right? Numbers file. Numbers file. Okay. What do? We're going to read the data. So I'm going to do a read numbers file. Okay, so I'm going to read. And I'm going to read I'm going to need a variable here, so I can just say and declare integer count. I'm also going to say declare read number. Now keep in mind that in Python, this would be a string and we have to convert it to an int and all of that. So don't forget about that. All right. So read numbers file, read number. Okay. Then I'm going to do set and I'm just going to keep track of a count. So the count is initialized to 0. So then I can do count equal count plus 1. And then finally, you know, the point of this is to display. So I'm going to do display, you know, some message, number is ... And then we're going to say count, or actually it should be for count, right? So we don't confuse this, I'm going to say number for count is read number. Like that. And then that ends the while. All right, since I ran out of room, I'm going to do ... I'm going to continue on the next slide, ... And I'm just going to say, well, you know, I'm going to repeat this actually just so that it's indented. I'm going to say end while. And then we're going to say, don't forget, you should always close the file. So in this case, numbers file. So please don't forget to do that. Okay. And then that just, you know, ... and module. Go back, ... And that's it. That's the pseudocode for okay. Are there any questions? No questions? All right, so
I think
it's
we're good.
okay, they're good. So then the next step is the flowchart. So remember, these are not going to go away really. But you should, as you can see, they're just getting easier now. I mean, they're bigger, granted, but they're getting easier in the sense that they have fewer symbols now. It's just you're using the same symbols and everything. All right, so this should be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to do main, right? Then I'm going to declare some variables over here. So I'm going to do declare input file, numbers file. Okay, then I'm going to do, declare count equals 0. Count 0 and also read number. Okay, then I'm going to open the file, as you know. Open, open numbers file. And we give it the name numbers.dat. Okay, then I'm just gonna do A here, and then I continue over here, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna say here, and it's a loop, a while loop, so I'm gonna say not end of file. Oops. End of file, numbers file. Numbers file. Okay, and remember that's kind of a conditional type. All right, and then now, if it's false, which means it is end of file, then all we have to do is close. All we have to do is close numbers file. So numbers file. And we're going to say end over here. Okay. If true, right, then we're going to, what do? We have to, I'm going to scroll down here. Actually, I'm going to point down there, and I'm going to say read. So now this is an input type of a symbol. So read numbers file. Numbers file. Okay. We're going to set count equal count plus 1. Okay. And we're going to display the result. So display. And I'm just going to write the results here. So it will be count and read number. Oh, and here when I said read numbers file, I missed the So it should have been read numbers file, read number. That's why I'm missing something right now. Okay, so then here we can print read number. And this is another like that, right? And then, you know, kind of just imagine this goes and then it comes back over here and it goes in there. Okay. Like that. All right. So that's basically the flow chart. Okay. Are there any questions about the flow chart? So that one was extremely easy and straightforward, but it allows us to look at the pseudocode, the flow chart, and then in a second, we're going to look at the code itself. All right, so it seems like there's no questions. So now I'm going to start up the Jupyter Notebook and I'm going to share the screen. Okay, so let's start Jupyter Notebook here. Okay, so then I'm going to share my screen. You should be seeing now the Jupyter Notebook. So we're going to proceed to do this. So one thing you need to do is you need to first create the file, right? So here I'm going to open the File Explorer. And so I need to show you that as well. You should now be seeing the File Explorer. So I'm just going to create a file. As I said, the extension doesn't matter. So I'm just going to use .txt, but I'm going to still call it numbers. There we go. And enter. Got the file now. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to open it with WordPad. And then now, probably the easiest thing would be to just have the numbers. As I said, this just assumes probably that the numbers are one line at a time, because in the while loop, it's basically reading every time, right? So what I would understand that to mean is that it has them like this, okay? All right, so I got a few numbers in there. You can have as many as you want. Now I'm going to go ahead and save it. And then I'm going to read those numbers in. So so you should have seen how I created that file, right? And then now I'm going to share back to the Jupyter Notebook. Okay. So we need, let's start with, what we need basically. We need to open a file. Remember, you have a F, I usually like to call these like in or out. So F in. We specify the name. It's called numbers.txt. Okay. And then, you know, we can just say read R. So now you can say for line in f in dot read lines, right? Remember that what this does is that we call the object f in, which is the same object f in here. Then we call the method read lines, and the method read lines actually just reads all the data in there. And this can read a lot of data. So for our purposes, for anything that we will do in 140, and probably even going further in some of your classes, this will always be enough. Okay. Usually you just read all the data. Later on, as you start dealing with even larger sets of data, what is called big data, etc., you will learn about other libraries, you know, basically. And I haven't really used that many libraries this semester. I realize that now that I think we've used a library here and there, but not that many. So I might, next week when we're starting to do sorting arrays, I might throw in a little library here and there. We just haven't had the need, you know. So that just shows you how powerful Python is, right? That even though you're learning the basics of programming, and that you're learning, you know, so far like 70% of it, you know, you're around there of the fundamentals. As far as Python itself and all its power and libraries, you're at 5% or less in just everything that it can do. All right, so now that we have for line and f in read lines, go ahead and we already have. So we don't really need to do read in and all that. It's already there in line. So now all we want to do is display it, but we want it to have some kind of a counter in there, right? So what we can do is we can create the counter as well. We can say count equal 0. And then when we go over here, then we're just going to print. We're going to say the number for line, and then we can say comma count, and then we can say is, and then we can say line. Now keep in mind, line will probably be an integer, so you probably want to do, or sorry, it'll be a string, so you probably want to do something like that. Now I showed you last week, I believe, or yeah, but last week, how to do input validation, right? Remember, is number, is integer, is this or that. It would probably be recommended sometimes to do an is integer, for instance, just to make sure that it is in fact that. So don't forget that that lecture and lab, because that was very important. Oh, also remind me, please, that in the slides this week, I introduced the try except, if you remember, and I need to show that. So after this example, I'm actually going to do that just so that I don't forget, because I need you to know what that is. We already covered it in the slides, but I need you to see it. I need you to see it in the code. All right, so I printed out the value, and that should be about it. We just, we want to do the count. You can do that count, I usually just like to do things like this. But I know some of you like the whole plus equal. Again, that's just style. For efficiency, I mean, there won't be that much speed up in Python itself here. All right, so that's it. Once I have done that, all I have to do is close it. So I'm going to say fin dot close, and that should do it. So let's go ahead and run it, and there you go. So the number of line is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's correct. And the numbers that we read are 3, 11, 7, 2, 17, 19, 23, 5. Okay? And so that's about it. Are there any questions about this problem? Problem 10.1. No questions? Okay, no questions. All right, so let's now talk a little bit about the try except. So if you remember, this was under the heading of exception handling, right? Exception handling. So what that means is, and it's a type of validation, but it's a type of making sure that your program does not crash. So, let's say here, for instance, let me do this. I'm going to do, I'm going to do here in the code, I'm going to take that number, whatever it is in line, and I'm going to say value equal line times 3, right? It's a number, so 3 times 3 should be 9. And then I'm going to print out, and actually I need to do that before, like that, right? I'm going to do that. So I'm multiplying the number, and then I wanted to write it here, and I'm going to say, and if times 3, then it is equal to something, right? And then I'm going to print out val. Okay, so that's really the idea. So let's try this without just like this. Okay, and I'm going to run it, and there it is, right? So 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 11 is 33, 7 times 3 is 21. The last one, 5 times 3 is 15. So that's correct. It seems to be working just fine. But as you know, we make mistakes sometimes, right? And let's say that I forgot to do this. So I'm going to comment it out, and now I'm not going to convert it to int. Now let's go ahead and run it again. And what happened? It does, what do you guys think happened? Take a look at this first. So take a look at this for like a few minutes and let me know what you think happened. Any ideas?
It repeated the output twice.
Right. Actually, it repeated it 3 times.
Yeah, three times.
3 times, right? And notice that it added new line characters at the end of each time. And that's because when we read it, the new line character is in there, right? So the new line character is in there. So that's one problem. The other problem is, notice what it did. It actually, you can do tricks like this in Python where it takes an object of whatever data type and it just generated 3 times, which is not actually what I wanted to do, right? Not at all. Right, so we would, first of all, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear that up. Okay, and now I'm going to say, let's change that a little bit. So I'm reading this as a line. Okay, so I'm going to say, try that. I'm going to run it. So it's saying square root is not defined. You see that? So SQRT there is square root. So I'm trying to take the square root of a number. Okay. By using a function in Python. So let me try, I was talking about libraries, right? So let's import the Python library math. And now let's do, and I'm going to say from import math as MT. Just, just to kind of show you that you can do this. I renamed it to MTH. So now I'm going to say MTH dot. So notice that the error here is that it doesn't know the function. So there's an error. Now I'm going to go ahead and clear it out again. There we go. Run it. Now, do you see? I got another error. But this time the error says, let's read through the output. Inval math square root must be real number, not string. Do you see that? So this time it did recognize the function. It just didn't, it didn't like the value. So according to this, all I should need to do is convert it to int or float. So let's try it again. I'm gonna clear that one. All right, and then I hit run. It worked this time. Do you see that? Would you agree that now remember that I'm taking the square root of what? Of the first one is 3. And then I multiply that times 3. What's the square root of 3?
9.
Not squared, the squared root. Squared root. I don't mean to square the number. I just mean the little symbol, square root. You guys know what I'm talking about? This one, right? So I'm saying 3 like that. What is that equal to?
1.5.
I think it's 1.7, right?
Yeah, I can't remember something.
Yeah. So if you, I'm just using my calculator. So just take the squared root, yeah, 1.73, right? And then times 3, 5.19. So if I go back to the Jupyter, is that what it is? Yeah, 519, 61, 52, exactly like my calculator. All right, so you know, that's the library there, and I can do that, and that's correct. So now, let's go back to the idea of these exceptions that I was talking about. So if I do this again, it will error out. See, there we go. All right, so the question is, there's many things that you can do to prevent this, obviously, but I just created this scenario so I can use the try. So the try, you can see I'm typing it here, is a structure, and this is basically how it works. Try except, right? That's all it is. So in try except, what's going to happen is you put in here the statements that you want to run. If there's an error, it's going to jump to here, and it's going to execute whatever statements you write on here, and then it'll continue. So the program does not crash. That's the advantage. So here, for instance, I'm just going to put a print done, and you will see that the except, even if I add an error, should be able to handle it. So for instance, here, I'm going to put all of this right in there. So let's say, you know, I have this like that. So one simple thing to test this probably would be to make this into a function, right? So I'm going to say define, define my my math function. My math function. Okay. And then now I'm going to say, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. I open it, have a counter, have a for loop in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then don't forget the close. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I have this, right? So now in my code without the try, let's say down here, I'm just going to run my function, or my math function, like that. Okay, I'm also going to comment this out for now, just so that I'm going to add the 3. And then down here. This thing is so annoying sometimes. So I commented out, by doing this, I commented out all of that. I'm calling my math function, and then so it should do my math function and then the print statement, okay? And my math function so far should work. Oh, I'm going to enable this back. So this should work. So let's go ahead and try that. Right, and you can see it ran, right? It did the printing and everything. Everything is good. Now I'm going to clear out the output. And I'm going to remove this. I'm going to comment this out. comment that out. And now I'm going to run it. All right, so that runs just fine. Now here, you get the error, right? It errored out because the line is not converted. Okay. Okay, so then now I'm going, the solution or the suggestion for this is going to be to put this in the except. Right, so instead of doing this, you'll see what happens. So now I'm going to clear this again, clear this output, and my math function now, so I'm going to enable this again, right, and I'm going to put my math function, which is here currently, I'm going to put it inside the try. So remember, when it's outside the try, it errors out. However, when it's inside, I can do something like this. I can say error. Right, so I'm going to try the math function. If it fails, if the program crashes for whatever reason, I would say error, and then say something like, just say error, check inputs or something, some error. But the program should continue to run, all right? At least that's what we want to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and run it, see if it works. And you can see that. Do you see that? Well, actually, let me try it one more time. Let me go to the top one here. All right, now I'm going to run this. You see that, guys? Do you understand the difference? That the previous time, it literally crashed, right? But this time, the program did not crash. It kept on going because it printed that done. But when it ran my math function, you can see that here, that errored out. So instead of crashing the program, it just jumped to the exception handling and it printed out whatever I had there. And it doesn't just have to be a print. It can literally be any code that you would like to have in there. That'll work. Are there any questions about this? Does this make sense? Questions? No questions? All right. Well, hopefully it makes sense. So that, that's kind of what I was trying to say. So the try except, you can see, is a very simple structure, and it allows you to continue executing without the program crashing. If I enable the line again, then it should run the code without problem. So I'm going to clear the output. Okay, see that now. I can run it. So I'm going to say run. And then down here, I'm going to run again. And there you go. This time, it worked just fine. Just like before, it called the my math function here, and it just did the work because there were no errors in the input, and therefore, it just worked really great. All right. Now, there are some errors. I'll leave that to you guys to explore. I can't remember their name. I think it's just like E. So if I do except E, I believe that'll capture the event, but I don't exactly remember. Let me just try that. So I'm going to do except E. Let's see what happens. Do this. Oh, wait. This will work. So I need to comment this out. Okay, now I'm gonna clear the output. Okay, run it. Run it again. Okay, and it actually this time, well, it's saying actually E is not defined, so it didn't like that. But I can't remember what are the, let me see if I can find this. So it would be the try event variables. So it should be value error, I think. So it's not E. So let me try value error. So accept value error. Okay, so then here you would plug in most likely value error. I usually don't print these out. I just usually, you know, I would just do the accept and then whatever I want. So that's really why I don't really remember. But let's see. I run that, should error out here. No, it's still not liking it. Well, actually, I think it worked this time because it didn't say I don't know value error, right? In the output here. It's just saying, it's just giving you excuse me, really the error, which is what I wanted. So it says type error must be real number, not string. Okay, so I think that actually did it. And there should be some other, there's type error, name error, runtime error. So there's a few other variables that you guys can try. There's OS error and so on. So there's quite a few of them. But like I said, you rarely will, but you know, just be aware that you have them available. And that's it. So that concludes the try catch. Usually this is called try catch, okay? You know, generically in programming languages, not in Python, but in generically, it'll be called the try catch structure. Here's try except. All right, so did you guys understand this? Would you like me to do another problem of try catch in Python, or do you feel that you understand it really well and we can move on? Are you guys there? You seem to be very quiet today. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I get it.
Yeah, I'm here.
Get it then. Okay. So that's what I want to know. So I want to know if you find that find it easy or hard. And all right. So it seems like some of you said you get it. Okay. So if you get it, then we are going to do another example. So I'm gonna move from here to the, where's the PDF? I think, yeah. Okay, so I need to share that document with you. Okay, so let's try another programming exercise then. Let's take a look. All right, so. Okay, so these are the programming exercises. Let's take a look at something interesting here, something fun. Sum of numbers, average of numbers. So all of these are very similar to the previous one. You just take the numbers and we've done, I think, averages and sums. Item counter. Trying to find, they're all very similar. Largest, we've done that as well. What is this golf scores? Let's see. An output and open input. So 10 and 6 are both about golf. Sales report, let's see that one. Let's just do, I guess, let's do 10-6, the golf one. Okay, I think that one. Yeah, let's do that one. They're all pretty much the same problem. So at least, you know, it'll be straightforward for you guys to do the homework. But let's do 10-6 is the one that seems to be the most different. All right, so let's see. Golf scores. 10-6. You know, this one. The Spring Fork Amateur Golf Club has a tournament every weekend. The club president has asked you to design 2 programs. 2 programs, okay. Program 1, a program that will read each player's name and golf score as keyboard input. Oh, okay. And then save these as records in a file named golf.dat. All right, this is a good one. Each record will have a field for the player's name and a field for the player's score. Number 2, a program that reads the records from the golf.dat file and displays them. Okay, I get it. All right. So let's go ahead and, you know, I guess we're gonna do the pseudocode first. So we follow the right procedure in the book. Okay, so I'm going to need okay. All right, so new slide. This is 10-6. You know, golf. All right, so the first thing is, you know, we're only going to do, I know it has 2 programs. We're going to write it in the same program. So I'm going to do, this is going to be a bit long one. So I'm going to do module main, right? And I'm going to create a variable, declare, the mode is going to be output file. Output file. I'm going to call it scores file. Okay. And then so we know that one because we're going to write. And then let's just open the file first and let's see what else we need. So I'm going to do open. I'm going to call it scores file. Right? Same name. And then the file is going to be golf.dat. What's so great about this is this program, we don't have to create the text file separately. We're actually just going to create the the text file from the code. Now, I don't want, as I said, just out of my own convention, just going to call it txt. Read names and scores to a file. So that's the first thing. So I've opened the file already. So that's a good thing because it's ready to go. So now I can just do. We also need to tell the program when to stop. So we're going to have, by convention, there are no players named X or Z. So when we type the letter Z, the program will stop. So that means we want to initialize a variable, and I'm going to call it read player. So I'm going to say it's a string. I'll call it read player. And I'm going to actually initialize it to just like X or something. Doesn't matter what it is. That'll be replaced. And then now we can say while, because remember, we're just reading inputs from the user. So I'm going to say while read player not equal to the terminator Z. Okay. So what am I going to do? I need to give the user a message. So I'm going to say enter player name. And I'm actually going to need this space. So enter player name and in parentheses C to terminate. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to input the data. And the variable is going to be read player. So I read the data in there. Okay. Read player. Then after that, if read player not equal to Z, right? That means that we haven't entered the terminating character just yet. So if it's not equal to Z, then we can continue, right? So I'm going to say display. We still need the score. Enter score. So that means, we need to input a variable. So we need another variable here. Declare. We're going to say integer read score. Okay, just like that. So now down here, I'm going to say input read score. And I'm going to write this to the file. So then I'm going to say write scores file, which remember that's this file here. So write scores file. And we need to write two things. So it's going to be read score and read player. So read. It's going to be actually, it should be a read player first, I guess. Read player and then read score. Okay, So I've got those two in there. It's good. And then we end if. Okay, and while. And while. All right, now we're gonna have to do dot, 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 and then dot, 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 because I need to continue further down, right? So this has basically given me the data, it's written. So now I'm gonna continue dot, 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 dot. After the end while, I'm just gonna continue that end while, I'm gonna repeat it, and then I need to close the file. So you need to, oops, I don't need that anymore. And so now you can just close the file. Scores file. Okay, we're done. Now the next thing is, now we need to, so remember, we have to get the inputs, write it to a file, we're done, close it. Then after that, we come back to it, we're gonna read this time, and display it, I guess. So we're just gonna do declare input file again, which is, but we changed the mode now to input files. Scores file, that's the file handler. We're gonna open scores file and map it to golf.txt, which is our data. And then we're gonna say while not, and this is just in the pseudocode how we write that out. So while not end of file scores file, what do? We read from scores file the two variables read player and read score. Okay, we do that. Then after that, once we've read them, we can just display them out on the screen. So we're going to say display player, read player, comma, score, read score. And that's it. Then we do the end while here. We do the end while. We close the file yet again. Close scores. File. And we dot, dot, dot. End module. All right, and there you go. You have done your pseudocode, and that's it. Are there any questions about the pseudocode, guys? All right, so it seems like there's no questions. You're all very quiet today. All right, so now let's do the flow chart. Same problem. Remember, again, do your best with these, but try to put in a little bit of effort. Okay, do main. Then I'm going to do declare output file or output scores file, right? So the first thing is we're going to write to the file. Then we're going to say declare some variables. So we're going to say read score, probably. Read score. And also read player. And we just initialize it to some string. And now we open the file, scores file, which is mapped to the name golf.txt. Okay, then I'm gonna, because I'm running out of room here, I'm gonna say A over here. And now I'm in the while loop. So I'm gonna say read player, or I'm actually not in the loop. I'm in just there's an if statement there, right? There was an if statement. Yeah. Technically, what should happen is that the junction of the while loop actually is here. That's why. I got confused there. So really, the while loop happens just before the read, but then the statement that we do in the read is going to be read player not equal to Z. And it's just that if statement there. Okay. Or we have, no, actually, that's the condition in the while loop. Sorry. Yeah. So this is, we do a while loop until somebody enters Z. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. So then this should be read player not equal Z as part of the while loop. Okay. All right. So now, if this is false, then we're done, right? We got all the values that we wanted, and so we can just close. We're done. Scores file. And we will start the next part. So let's just call it B. However, if we're still in the code, if we're still entering data, then we should have a display, enter data. And remember, this looks like that. Okay. Then after that, we input the data. Read player. Same thing. Right? Then we say, we had another if statement. So we had another if statement there about the value being Z. So we're going to evaluate that, but not in a loop. So we're just going to say, is read player not equal to Z? Okay. So we do that. If it's false, then we are basically done. All right, so if it's false, oops, that's a terrible line. So, there, perfect. Now, if it's true, then we have to continue getting data. Okay, we have to continue getting data. So I'm just going to shorten this because I'm running out of room here, and I'm just going to say, oh, there's a lot actually. So let me do this. I'm going to say C and then C, right? So I need to specify what C is. So I'm going to go over here. So what I'm gonna do here, oops. I'm gonna say C and then D. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here on the next page. This is gonna be C, and it's gonna be display, enter score. Then I'm gonna say input read score. Like that. And then finally write scores file. And what do we write to it? We write read player, but also read score. Okay. All right, and then after this, we send this back to D. And then where is D? D is this one over here, so it comes back right there. All right, and then that should be it. Then here, you know, we continue, and now we continue the loop. All right. Are there any questions so far? No questions? All right, so now we got to continue with B. So I'm going to go ahead and use another slide. I'm going to call this one B. Okay, and we're going to start for the second part. We're going to start with the second part, which is going to be to declare input file, scores file. All right, so it's going to be scores file here. Then we open. So I'm going to do open scores file. And we open the file golf.txt. Okay. And then finally, we're going to do the loop. So I'm going to pick yet another letter. I'm going to say E. All right, and I'm going to continue with E here. E. So this is the second loop. So I'm going to say not end of file, scores file. Okay. And so if it's false, right? So if it's false, we basically were done. So we're just going to close scores file. And we end the program. However, the very last part is if this is true, we're going to read from scores file, read player, and read score. Okay, so now we're reading from the file like that. And then we just display the results. So I'm going to do display, results. So it's going to be read player. And read score. And that's it. So once we're done with that, we just go back to the loop, and that completes the program. Are there any questions about this one? Any questions about the flow chart? No? All right, before I forget to do this, before I do the code for the homework, for the problem, let me just put in the homework in so I don't forget to do that. So I'm gonna go to the bright space. I'm going to go to Brightspace, and I'm going to I'm going to give you the homework assignment. You've seen that the PDF is already there. We're going through the problems. And here in Files, I'm just going to create a link. So I'm going to call it new assignment. So you guys should be seeing Brightspace right now. I'm writing in Files, homework. This is going to be due, today's the 29th of November, so it's going to be due on the 5th by 11. All right, so for the following, complete the pseudocode flowchart and Python code. And then it'll be programming exercises. And out of these, it'll be 10 to 10, 8, ten, 5, and 10, 4. All right, so those are the problems, 10, 2, 10, 8, 10, 5, and 10, 4. Okay, so you got 4 problems. For all of these, you have to do the pseudocode, flowchart, and Python code. Are there any questions about the homework? All right, so that has been created, as you can see there. And you can work on those problems. All right, so are there any questions about the homework? No? Okay, so let's go ahead then and switch over to the Jupyter Notebook. And that way we can do, okay, so I'm going to create a new file here. All right, and let's do this one. All right, so all I need is to create the file. So I'm going to call this one fin. All right, and I'm going to open it. The name of the file will be golf.txt. Okay, and for now, I need to write. For the first time, I need to write. So I'm going to put a W there. All right, then I'm going to say I need a variable. I'm going to change these a little bit. So I'm going to call it player name. And I'm going to initialize it to X as the program states. Player score. And I'm just going to say it's 0. And then I'm going to say while player name not equal to the letter Z, all right, so it's going to be Z. Okay, so now I'm going to read the values, right? So I'm going to do a print here, print enter name. Player name is going to be equal to input. So we input, and then if player name not equal to Z, we read in the other values. So I'm going to say print enter score. All right, and now player score is going to be input. Okay. And then now the next step is to write this out to the file. So I need to open the file, right? So I'm going to open the file here, or I already opened it actually. It's over here. So then I can just use it, and I'm going to say fin.write. Okay. And what do I write? I write, let's say, record. So I'm going to create a variable called record that will allow me to piece together what I want. So I'm going to say record is going to be player name, concatenation. I'm going to make this comma separated. So I'm going to do comma space plus player score. Okay. Now, I probably need to add a new line character, but I will have to test that out to see. All right, once I have this, I have the record in there, so I can write the file. And that's it. That concludes the if and the while, right? And now I can close the file. So I can do fin.close. Okay. Now the next step is to open the file again, but this time we're going to open it. Oh, actually, so this, yeah, this should have been F out, actually, logically speaking, right? Because I'm writing. So let me change that. F out. F out. Now I'm going to open fin, which will be open, same file, golf.txt, but this time around, I'm just going to read. Okay, so I go over here, and now I'm going to read. So for line in fin dot read lines, and I have everything in there. So now I can do print, because I need to print all of these, right? So I'm just going to do print line. I'm going to hit, and then the final part is fin dot close. All right, and that hopefully will do it. So now I'm going to try it, see if it breaks. Okay, enter name, you know, Joe Smith. Oops. Enter score. Do any of you play golf? What are some typical golf scores?
For like every hole,
I don't know, just
like for hole one, he got 3.
so 3 is a score.
Yes.
Okay, so 3. All right, Tiger Woods. What's a good score for Tiger Woods?
He probably gonna birdie it.
A what?
Let me see. He'll probably get a 4.
4. Okay. What's a bad score? Let's say Johnny bad score, right? So,
Any score above 5 is bad. So 6.
6. Okay. All right. So that's 3 there, and then now I'm gonna the stopping criteria is Z, right? So Z, and there you go. Joe Smith, 3. Tiger Woods, you said it was 4. Johnny Bat's score is 6. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions? Well, it seems like it's clear if there are no questions, right? We are out of time for today. So please, review these examples that we did 3 examples today, the try catch and these 2. And then I have assigned 4 problems for your homework assignment. So make sure you work on those. They're due a week from today. Also, make sure you're working on your term project. Start thinking about that. All right. All right, so if there are no questions, I'll stay for a couple of minutes. I'll pause the recording at this time. And if there are no questions, we will stop here for today, and I will